Hi, Pastor Wilson here with another thought from my study. I wanted to continue this series about obviously COVID-19. That's where we're all living right now. Billions of lives are being impacted, whether it's through just the quarantine or economic fallout or whatever it might be. The whole world is looking at this and being impacted by it right now. But as I look at it from the church's standpoint, I want us to think about this. I mentioned in the first video, the timing can't go unnoticed. Now, church, think about this. It is the time that is considered the greatest attendance time. It's the greatest holy day, if you will, of the church. It's Resurrection Sunday. It's the time that we celebrate the pillar of our faith, the fact that Jesus Christ was risen from the dead. In fact, the Apostle Paul says that if Christ didn't rise from the dead, we worship in vain. I mean, our whole faith is futility. So it's critical. The resurrection is crucial to our faith. And so it's the day that we celebrate, the day that 3 days later after the cross, he came out of the grave. It's during this time that the entire church globally is being quarantined and being told they can't actually meet, can't have face-to-face community for the sake of social distancing. People who were supposed to be baptized, we were supposed to be baptizing several people in our own church on the Easter Sunday morning. So there are some things that we need to consider about the timing. And the reason I want you to think about this as a church is that we are quick sometimes to say God is doing something because of the unbelievers. This may be something that God is doing for the sake of the believer. We are the ones that care most about whether or not we can gather together for Easter Sunday. And we are the ones who cannot. And so we're going to be suffering the most, really, from this. There's something that I think God is trying to say. We think in terms of judgment. Perhaps we should go to 1 Peter 4, where it talks about the fact that judgment always begins in the house of God. Not that God doesn't judge, but he always cleans his own house first. So we may need to look at some of these things. And as I thought about that, what is it that's missing? What is it maybe that we're not doing? What is it that God is trying to say to us? I looked at the book of Ezekiel, and of course, Ezekiel is a watchman who is told to tell people that the Lord is, and the Lord is going to judge, and the Lord is going to do these things. And if you don't tell, then it's still going to happen, but the blood of those people will be on his hands. And so the church has been told to be a watchman, to go out and deliver the gospel. And whether we deliver the gospel or not, the Lord's hand, his judgment, his plan will still come to pass. So we might need to consider it from there. We might need to consider what it talks about in Ezekiel 37. Though it's talking about Israel, I think the picture doesn't go unnoticed. He says he had to breathe life into the dead bones. Is the church dead? I mean, we certainly get all of the statisticians telling us that the young people are walking away from the faith, telling us that the church is at least dying, if not already dead. Now, we know the Lord has said that hell itself will not be able to prevail against the church, and God will always keep some sort of a remnant. But maybe he's trying to get a hold of us, the believers, to say, hey, you are dying. You are not living the way you need to be living. You're not following through on the mission that I've given you. And so I'm thinking maybe the church needs to wake up and say, what is it, Father, that you're trying to say to us? Please allow us to understand. Give us grace and insight to understand from you what it is you're trying to say to the church. Acts chapter 1 and verse 8 says that we are supposed to go and give the gospel to everybody in our own town, take that throughout the outskirts of our town, take it to places like Samaria, which would be even to people we don't like, the uttermost parts of the earth. We are supposed to be delivering the good news of Christ around the world, starting from our own home and broadcasting it out even further than that. Are we doing that? Now, the Jews were told that in Acts chapter 1, but you'll notice after Stephen is persecuted, by the time you get to Acts chapter 8, that the Lord had to send persecution to scatter the church. In other words, they were not going where they were supposed to go and do what they were supposed to do, and so God scattered them. Church, is God speaking to us?